So I'd just like to welcome Minister Harris and I suppose Minister Collins as well. It's fantastic to get the update, so thank you very much for that. I suppose just in the Turn report we noticed, and what was key was digital literacy skills. That's so crucial, particularly in the regional areas that we're looking at. I suppose I really welcome the investment of over 65 million. You speak as well about the student experience. For me, that's crucial. I suppose I would like to find out a little bit more about how we're going to ensure that we get the balance of lecturers to students. So in other words, that we're reducing the number of students per lecturer in our colleges, and I suppose very much so that the TUs are focusing on the NFQ levels 6 to 10. I suppose just some of the questions for me are, firstly, I suppose timelines. Very happy to hear about the international review of the AIT-LIT consortium. I suppose just when, what are the next steps there for the Connacht Ulster Alliance? I'm assuming that's one of the two, Minister, that you've mentioned that's coming in shortly. I know that Senator John Cummins also asked me to raise, I suppose, in relation to the TU in the southeast as well, and I suppose the importance of that. So I suppose that application would be coming in soon. Second question, the importance of embedding with industry. I think that's really crucial, especially in regional areas. I'd really like to ask a little bit, just very quickly, about, suppose, SFI and IRC. Those are two agencies that are under your remit, Minister Harris, and I suppose how are they going to engage with the TUs, and particularly maybe with startups and SMEs? Do you have any foresight on how that might work? And Enterprise Ireland, perhaps around the research offices and commercialisation. And then very lastly, I suppose the THEA last week, it spoke to us about sustainability and the reference to the Castle's report, I suppose Exchequer and EU funding in relation to sustainability, also solidarity with the community, and that's really key, and that's something that we want to see with our TUs. For me, the key part there would also be about human capital. So how are we going to ensure that the people we hire within these TUs will have dedicated research time? And I'll stop there. Thanks very much, Minister, and thank you, Minister Collins.
You may have to recap on some of them. I was trying to write them as fast as I could, Senator Dolan, because there was a lot of areas to cover there. But thank you very much for your interest in this and your work in this area. On the digital skills piece, I mean, this is key. Not just digital skills, but literacy, numeracy and digital skills. We have about 50% of people in our country, adults in our country, who lack basic digital skills. They are going to simply be locked out of society and locked out of our economy in many ways if we don't rectify this. We've tasked Sulis with preparing Ireland's first ever adult literacy, numeracy and digital skills plan. That's due to come to me probably around Easter, and I'll publish shortly thereafter. We'd really be eager to engage with this committee on how we can then make that document a living document that makes a meaningful difference in towns and villages across our country. On the AIT-LIT developments, pleased to say that they submitted an application to me for designation on the 20th of November. I appointed an international advisory panel in December. The panel is currently undertaking an assessment and it's concluded its meetings on the 10th of February. They will then submit their final report to the HEA, and it's likely then that I shall hear back then around the end of March in that regard. So depending on how that goes, I suppose we'll finalise the specific designation date. In relation to the Connacht Ulster Alliance, they've informed my department that it's likely we will receive their application sometime in the month of March, and we will then follow the same statutory process. And in relation to TUSI, for Senator Cummins, my understanding is that consortium hopes to have the application to me around the 28th of April, around the end of April as well. In relation to SFI, the IRC, and if I may say also the HEIs, I mean, I ran out of time on Senator Byrne's question, but I mean, one of the things we're trying to do now that we have them all under one remit, we now have 50% of our public research budget under the remit of one department, is to try and not have a siloed situation where you have the SFI strategy over here, the IRC over here, HEIs doing other things. So just to assure you and Senator Byrne, it's way more than being administrative or being administrators. We have a chance here to actually have one national research plan for Ireland. But to do that, I think we have to involve civic society as well. They've done this in the Netherlands. They've done it in other countries as well, where they've actually, and I think COVID perhaps provides us with that opportunity. People are excited about research and science, perhaps as a once-in-a-generation opportunity. So we want to use this year, the Taoiseach will kick it off shortly, to kick off a national conversation about research and innovation, to involve our TUs, to involve all our higher education institutions, to involve our schools, but also broader civic society. And by the end of the year, to have one national research plan that all our agencies play their part in, and it's very clear who has a responsibility to do what. That will also have to tackle, as you rightly say, the issue of human capital. And I've tried to make a bit of progress in that already. We increased the stipends for those for researchers with the Irish Research Council recently as a first step. But I also want to have discussions about career pathways. Not every researcher will work in academia forevermore. there will also be many researchers who will need to transition from academia into industry, and there needs to be greater link-ups through that as well. So I'd be really interested in and keen to continue to engage with the committee on this. Research and innovation is where the future of our economy's well-being is at, and our societies. And I know this department gets asked a lot of questions about other burning issues of the day, and rightly so. But actually, I think the long-term strategic benefit of this department has to be obviously the proper funding of higher education, no doubt, but also actually getting research and innovation where it needs to be from both a funding point of view and a policy point of view.
Okay, thank you.